Wenling, a high school student in the fictional city of Huaxiu, possesses extraordinary magical powers that he tries to hide in order to appear ordinary among his peers. Since childhood, his strength had been so overwhelming that he once faced and defeated a gigantic monstrous frog without fear. Yet, this extraordinary achievement remained unknown to others, as the credit was mistakenly given to someone else. On the first day of the new school year, Wenling entered the campus and noticed the statue of Yui, the man who was known as the savior of Huaxiu. As he made his way inside, he was approached by two senior students who decided to bully him. They demanded money from him, mocking his low spiritual power value, a number that represented his skill and spiritual abilities. But before they could go further, a golden flame shot down from the sky. A girl descended, declaring that bullying a new student for having a low power value was unfair. She was none other than Su Enrong, the daughter of the legendary Flower Fruit Water Curtain group. Everyone admired her, and the bullies quickly retreated out of respect for her reputation, insisting that boys should not fight with girls. Suen walked up to Wenling, assuring him that she would protect him no matter what. They shook hands, but to everyone's surprise, Wenling calmly handed her the $10 that the bullies had demanded. The crowd was left confused, including some of the girls, who thought she was worth far more than that. Later, the teacher Zhu appeared as a hologram, summoning the students to gather for the spiritual power test that would determine class placements. Those who scored excellent values would be placed in the elite class, while the others would be sent to the normal class. When the test began, the first student, Sunrong's rival Sunying, found himself in a dark room with water covering the floor. Suddenly, a giant frog emerged as the water began to glow. Outside, the students watched the scene projected on a large screen. Some girls recognized the frog as the one that had attacked the city years ago and had been defeated by teacher Zhu, yet now it seemed to have returned, reminding them of tales where frogs kissed by maidens would transform into princes. The announcer explained that the real giant frog was sealed beneath the campus, and what they were facing was merely a manifestation of its spiritual power. The students were instructed to summon their spiritual strength and strike the frog's head. Many failed to even touch it. Then, a boy named Chen Chao entered the arena, slamming his fire-infused hand into the frog's barrier. He was immediately selected for the elite class, along with Guo Hao, who impressed everyone with a spiritual value of 886. Next, Su Enrong joined the trial. She struck the frog with a force value of 2019, and the audience erupted in cheers, treating her like a heroine. Then came Wenling's turn. As he drew the frog's attention, the creature immediately recognized him, recalling their encounter years ago. The frog thought to itself that if it attacked, its spirit would be at risk. Wenling, determined to maintain his ordinary facade, pretended to struggle. He acted as if he was exerting all his effort, though in reality, he was holding back his true power. Just as he was about to strike, the display screen malfunctioned, flipping the frog's image upside down. To everyone's shock, the audience was stunned, and Sunrong realized there had been no barrier protecting the frog this time. He wondered why the frog had reacted this way, realizing it had been pretending to be defeated. Nevertheless, Wenling secured his place in the elite class, as teacher Pan introduced the first lesson on summoning. Pan explained that the space around them was filled with spiritual entities. Students were to channel their spiritual power to open a passage and summon a spiritual being. He further explained that the size and strength of the summoned creature depended on the summoner's power level. One by one, the students tried. Chen summoned a stick, which made everyone laugh, joking that he must have wanted to branch out with his summoning skills. Meanwhile, some girls managed to summon a skeletal dog with a cute pink bow tied to its tail, jokingly calling it a stray. As they admired their creations, they wondered how much spiritual energy it would take to summon a true spiritual beast. When it was Wenling's turn, the classroom shook as an explosion erupted. To everyone's horror, he accidentally summoned the giant frog from the test. Panic spread among the students. Teacher Pan quickly intervened, merging the frog with one of the girls' summoned dogs, creating a strange green creature that astonished everyone. They named it Froggy. The following day, as Wenling walked to school, he was flooded with memories of his childhood that reminded him why he always sought to keep a low profile. From the moment of his birth, extraordinary events had unfolded around him. He recalled the instant he emerged from his mother's womb, shocking his parents with his innate strength, bypassing the need for midwifery assistance. His powers did not stop there. As he grew older, he discovered that even his touch carried immense force. Once, he shattered a limited edition, dragon-slaying sword his parents had bought for him, despite the fact that his mother had secretly replaced it with a fake to keep his father from wasting half his hard-earned savings. Strange incidents continued to happen as he aged. On one unforgettable birthday, he accidentally set the entire house ablaze just by trying to blow out the candles on his cake. Forget children's songs, this boy was busy breaking swords and burning houses. Yet, when his parents saw him defeat a level 5 giant frog at the age of 6, they realized the danger of his overwhelming power. Wanting him to live an ordinary, happy life, they gave him a protective talisman to wear and a golden pill to consume daily to suppress his strength. Even so, his powers remained immense. His father promised to craft a stronger talisman someday, but until then, Wenling decided to attend school while keeping his power hidden, blending in as much as possible with the other students. When he arrived at school, he found himself in the middle of the heated elections for class president. One girl, trying to secure votes, offered free gifts from her family's store to the new students who supported her. Chen and Guo criticized her for cheating, but she insisted it was her chance to show off her charm. No one accepted the free gifts except for one boy, who was driven by his endless obsession with girls. He struck a deal with her, promising to give 5 votes in her favor in exchange for 5 packs of crunchy dry noodles. Seeing him accept her gifts, the other students also began to take them in exchange for their votes. She skillfully enhanced her strategy by using charm techniques, causing glowing spiritual symbols to appear above the heads of those who received her gifts. As she bid farewell to Suan Rong, she presented her with a golden pill, a spiritual containment gift passed down from her mother. She believed that 1 vote was hardly enough to repay such generosity, especially when compared to 5 packs of noodles. But she was unaware of the misunderstanding that was about to unfold. In class, the teacher delved into the art of enchantment, explaining how hand signs, incantations, and offerings could be used to channel spiritual power into others. He revealed that this technique dated back 1,000 years to a mysterious figure known as the Little Sage Boy, who once led more than 3,000 devoted disciples. He explained that performing such a charm required the caster to offer a gift while reciting the incantation, creating a spiritual field that relaxed the minds of the recipients, allowing spiritual power to influence and control them. Doubts arose in Suan Rong's mind as he remembered the girl freely distributing gifts, wondering if she had cast such a spell on everyone. Yet he realized something crucial: he had given her a golden pill in return for her gift, meaning the exchange was balanced. That should have prevented him from being affected by the charm. With a quick gesture, he signaled for her to eat the pill instead. Unfortunately, she misunderstood his repeated glances, mistaking them for a sign of romantic interest. Suan, believing she had found a new source of strength within the golden Wenling pill, consumed it without realizing it was nothing more than a trial of spiritual endurance. The sudden shift broke everyone free from her charm, leaving Qin victorious in the election and rising to the honored role of class president. The following day, on his way to the pill refining lesson, he encountered Suan, who arrived at the academy in a luxurious car, surrounded by personal guards. Walking upon a red carpet with an aura of importance, she carried a mysterious mark above her head. Wenling instantly recognized it as the lingering effect of his charm, accidentally placed upon Suan. Approaching cautiously, he gently brushed his hand through her hair, erasing the mark and freeing her from its confusing hold. Yet, this sudden act left both Guo and Qin shocked, wondering how Wenling could act so boldly toward her. Inside the classroom, Teacher Ban carefully explained the intricate process of crafting a vitality pill with the Yongxin cauldron and the furnace, while students discreetly examined each other's tools. Qin proudly presented a copper cauldron once owned by his great-grandfather, imagining the admiration of certain girls for his family heirlooms. Teacher Ban guided them through the first steps, stressing patience, as the process would demand 7 hours, urging them to return later to check the progress. The students began eagerly, determined to prove themselves. Qin reflected that his family's cauldron was better suited for large-scale production, though more difficult for delicate control. Some girls proudly displayed machines imported from their prestigious family factories, while another, unconventional, chose a humble microwave to modernize the art. Guo, ever practical, relied on an old-style furnace with temperature control, radiating confidence. The calm atmosphere shattered when Qin's cauldron suddenly exploded, throwing the class into chaos. Terrified of what his father would say, Qin fled down the corridors, his cries echoing. Later, Froggy entered the classroom, devouring Guo's furnace to drain its spiritual energy and grow stronger. But Wenling, anticipating this, returned in time. A cat and mouse chase began as Froggy leapt out of the window, desperate to escape. Wenling pursued swiftly, forcefully, reclaiming the furnace before retreating to wash it in the bathrooms. Guo, noticing Wenling leaving with his furnace, confronted him with suspicion, pointing a gun. Though Wenling tried sincerely to explain, Guo mistrusted him and fired, mistakenly spraying poison into Qin's mouth. Qin collapsed, and Wenling rushed to save him. Still oblivious, Guo asked Wenling's help in brewing an antidote and promised forgiveness in return. Together, they carried Qin back, armed with a Tier 3 textbook to prepare the antidote. The process would take 4 hours at minimum. While they worked, Froggy again targeted the furnace, but Guo reacted quickly, unleashing a flash that forced the creature's energy outward, turning it into a temporary heater. Realizing this was an unexpected advantage, they channeled the frog's energy into the furnace to accelerate the work. Just as they finished, the class entered. Wenling moved fast to cover the scene while Guo stalled, but Teacher Ban arrived with the students, surprised to see everything normal. Inspecting Guo's furnace, the teacher retrieved a golden pill, awarding him a score of 85. However, when Wenling's microwave was opened, it revealed only a charred, shattered mess like a bomb. The teacher scolded him severely, prompting Guo to suspect Wenling had swapped pills with Qin. Internally, Guo swore a vow of loyalty to Wenling, unaware that their true pill still rested within the cauldron, while the microwave had failed entirely. After class, they lifted Qin from the broken cauldron. In his haste to hide him earlier, Wenling had thrown him inside. Later, Qin awoke on the floor, asking about his cauldron, and Wenling assured him it had been repaired. Qin embraced him, apologizing for his doubts, tears streaming down his face. Soon after, a girl invited him on a date, leaving him speechless. At that moment, Wenling noticed two assassins in rabbit masks perched on a nearby rooftop, aiming a rifle at Soon. He acted quickly, redirecting the bullet with his power and saving her life without her realizing. She continued to insist on their date, convinced of his choice, while Qin broke down in tears, comforted by Guo. Then, an officer arrived, requesting Wenling, who followed him to the teacher. Misunderstanding. Soon believed Wenling had accepted her invitation, and rumors of a romance spread across the official Class 60 page. Wenling was introduced to the Honorable Joint Master of the Academy, Master Zui, who immediately recognized him as the boy who defeated the giant frog and addressed him with respect, even requesting to become his student. Wenling, however, used his memory erasing technique, reducing its strength to half to avoid harming Zui permanently, and left. Later, he retreated to a quiet place to eat his crunchy dry macarons, but Froggy appeared, informing him of the assassins. The next morning, Wenling woke from nightmares of Soon, only to see her waiting outside with her guards. He rushed to shut the curtains, then went downstairs, where his parents were thrilled at the chance of his courtship. His father proudly showed him the high-grade nutritional pills she had given, praising their beauty-enhancing qualities. With no choice, Wenling was sent off on the date. Slowly, he entered her luxury car, silently wishing the assassins would appear. She told him they were heading to Heavenly Paradise, an amusement park and family estate project built by her grandfather. She teased him about bringing her true love there, then laughed it off as a joke. Inside the park, they visited the Cosmic Cave, where the guide explained the prophecy wall, claiming that placing one's hand into the fairy's mouth would reveal the fate of their relationship. She urged him to try, but before they could, the assassins appeared again, firing bullets. Wenling swallowed one midair, startling her with his reckless act. Smiling shyly, he unleashed his power to subdue them, then erased the memories of the witnesses with his forgetting trick at 50%. The date continued, filled with rides and laughter, though assassins lurked at every turn. Each time, Wenling quietly erased the traces. At sunset, she asked him to ride the Ferris wheel and watch the fireworks. Hoping for peace, he agreed, yet the assassins followed, cornering them mid-ascent. She placed herself between Wenling and the assassins, determined to protect him. Seeing this, Wenling's eyes blazed bright red with fury. He disabled their weapons and devices, casting them out of the cabin. Turning to her, he made her promise secrecy, invoking for the first time the full 100% promise trick, sealing all memories of the day as an unbreakable secret. His date with Soon herself arrived in her luxury car, flanked by her attendants and guarded closely. Her escorts formed a protective circle around them while the supervisor informed everyone about the continuing threat of assassins who had tried to strike at Heavenly Paradise. Gil appeared and began boasting about the security measures in place, claiming it was he who stopped the assassins yesterday. Qin cheered him on, admiring his supposed bravery, unaware that Wenling had actually stopped them and even used the forgetting trick at 50% on Qin the night before. Now remembered himself as the hero who defeated the attackers, while Wenling remained unnoticed and kept his profile low. The supervisor then revealed that a kill order from the Shadow faction had been issued against Soon, warning that anyone marked by such an order would never escape alive. He explained the strict security protocols for her protection, soldiers stationed at the gates, layers of protection inside the buildings, and guards at the Golden Pill stage and higher. Across the academy, Ziyu ordered everyone to gather in his office, which was reinforced with a powerful protective field. In addition, the Seven Stars squad would patrol the skies on their enchanted flying swords to guard against sniper fire and aerial strikes. Everyone gathered inside the office, and Ziyu assured them that they would be safe there. Shin grew excited when he spotted the squad patrolling the campus through the window. The supervisor admitted this was the highest level of security ever deployed since the founding of the school. Suddenly, Zhu and the supervisor noticed Xufeng, the third member of the Hammer team, wearing the red belt of the Shadow faction, attacking the guards with his chicken hammer. In the chaos, Xufeng struck a security camera with his hammer, cutting off the feed, leaving Ziyu and the supervisor blind to the scene. The students paid little attention, too distracted with chatting in the elite class group about what had happened yesterday at Heavenly Paradise during Wenling's date. Meanwhile, the supervisor issued commands through his phone, reducing the number of armed ships at the gate, while increasing guards in the central lobby. Soon after, another assassin appeared, Shu Yi, the second member of the Hammer team and a red belt of the Shadow faction, infamous for his mastery of poisons. He unleashed toxic gas against the elite guards, forcing the supervisor to face him in battle. The students, including Qin, watched the fight unfold on the screens inside the office. During all this, Wenling quietly ordered crispy noodles on his phone, waiting patiently for his delivery. The battle raged as the supervisor skillfully avoided Shu Yi's traps. Just as Shu Yi attempted to flee toward the office, Wenling casually opened the door and struck him, apologizing immediately before stepping out to collect his food. Zhu reassured Suyun that she would be safe, insisting the assassins were after her specifically. On his way back, Wenling crossed paths with Shujian, the late-stage Golden Pill Master and leader of the Hammer team, known for his power of concealment and his massive war hammer. Hidden in stealth, Shujian prepared to dismantle the protective field. Yet to his shock, Wenling walked right past him and acknowledged his presence while collecting his food order. Shujian, confused, thought Wenling was speaking about the delivery, believing himself unseen. When he realized Wenling truly noticed him, he grew furious. Shujian launched a devastating strike with his fully charged hammer, but it crashed against Wenling like an egg on stone, leaving him completely unharmed. Calmly eating his crispy noodles, Wenling remained unbothered. Shujian trembled in fear, wondering how Wenling possessed such vast spiritual energy despite being in the early stage. With ease, Wenling pulled Shujian out of concealment and left him sprawled on the ground. Zhu appeared, congratulating him and addressing him as Master. Once again, Wenling used the forgetting trick at 50% on Guild, making him believe he had defeated Shujian himself. Wenling handed Shujian over to Zhu, claiming he had been injured by the assassins. The police soon arrived to arrest the attackers, and everyone gathered around Zhu, praising his bravery. They noticed both Wenling's and Zhu's arms looked injured. After the incident, Wenling pretended to be sick from the assassin attacks, taking medical leave and staying home for 10 days. His mother scolded him for faking, and reported to the academy that he had recovered, insisting he return the day after tomorrow. Lying in his private, healing cabin specially constructed by top medical experts hired by Suyun, he thought about how frightened she had been, without knowing what really happened. As a humble hero, he believed the credit should remain with Zhu. The healing cabin automatically bathed him in expensive medicinal vapors every hour to restore his vitality. His mother brought him breakfast, urging him to leave the cabin and eat. Just then, Mr. Wenling called from downstairs that his friends had come to visit. Startled, Wenling quickly slipped back into the cabin, pretending to be weak. His mother welcomed the visitors upstairs, who carried flowers and gifts. She told them kindly it was unnecessary and went to prepare snacks. Guo mocked Wenling for still being sick and introduced his pet bird, Birdie 2, which perched on top of the cabin, repeating camel, camel, camel. Everyone laughed except Wenling, who cursed the bird in silence, wondering why his friend would keep such an ugly pet. Qin joked that Wenling resembled the bird, making him frown in annoyance. Suyun suddenly remembered they had left Froggy at the door, but it soon joined Wenling's mother as she returned with the snacks. The frog bounded up to Wenling and licked his face. His mother thanked the visitors warmly for caring about him, while Suyun saw this as a chance to deepen her bond with her future mother-in-law. She offered Mrs. Wen the finest elixirs from her family's stores, along with nutritional pills like the ones she had given earlier, and even a syringe of blood tonic made from chicken essence to ensure Wenling's recovery. After Mrs. Wen left with the gifts, she warned him to treat his friends and especially Suyun well. Suyun pushed Froggy aside and sat next to Wenling, expressing her concern and asking if he felt better. Then she produced the syringe of blood tonic and explained that, combined with spiritual energy, it was said to work miracles for recovery. Hearing this, Wenling grew nervous. At that moment, Qin revealed that the administration had distributed testing bracelets to every student and had specifically sent one for Wenling to be delivered during the visit. Suyun grew angry and argued that the spiritual test would require too much energy, and Wenling should not be forced to take it if he was still unwell. Wenling feared the syringe, and even more, the thought of merging their spiritual power. To avoid her blood tonic, he rushed to Qin and grabbed the bracelet, declaring that he had already recovered and was ready to test his strength. The annual spiritual energy test began, starting with Qin. He demonstrated how one must focus all spiritual power into 2 spheres so the bracelet could measure the energy before letting it burst. This would record the diameter of the sphere and produce results. Unlike the entrance test, this examination showed how spiritual force could take any form. Qin's score was measured at about 600, close to his previous entrance value. Guo explained that this represented externalized power, formed by condensing spiritual force outward, a sign of true training and proof of a genuine practitioner. When Guo's turn came, his value reached only 176. Embarrassed, he nearly leapt from Wenling's window, but Qin quickly stopped him. Suyun then suggested skipping her test to prevent unnecessary harms. Yet Wenling reminded Qin that even though she came from a prestigious family, her entrance score was 2019, which meant her sphere would not be overly large. Reluctantly, Suyun agreed to test. To their shock, her energy nearly burst the entire room. Her recorded score reached 4015, placing her second only to Tang Jing of Faction 59. Both Guo and Qin sat frozen in disbelief at the scale of her sphere. Now, Wenling's turn had come. He wore the bracelet, quietly deciding to leak his energy to keep his result low. Suyun once more prepared her blood tonic syringe, asking if he was feeling better. Wenling quickly replied that he was fine and didn't mind continuing. At first, he formed a small sphere, thinking it would be enough. Yet, even that little force pinned everyone in place as if a storm pressed upon them. No one realized his hidden power was like a cyclone in itself. He directed his energy outward, and in an instant, created a massive spiritual sphere, vast as a planet. When the readings appeared, the bracelet displayed a score of 0. Everyone stared in confusion, wondering if 0 meant nothing at all. Suen explained, it must be because he was still sick and had not fully recovered. Wenling suggested, perhaps it was a display error, making Qin and Guo laugh before they all left for homes. Later, Wenling contacted Guo to help hack the system and alter his result to 175. Guo agreed, and while Wenling ate crispy noodles, Guo worked on the system. To his surprise, the password turned out to be just 8-star symbols. While changing records, Guo swapped Tang Jing's name with Birdie, laughing at the joke. But an alarm suddenly triggered, forcing him to exit before adjusting Wenling's score. The next day, Wenling and his close friend ate lunch together, chatting casually. On the television, training from Faction 59 was being broadcast. The news highlighted the upcoming national sword competition for senior divisions, showing the training field of Faction 59. The reporter emphasized that their level was nearly professional, spotlighting Tang Jing, forming the Great Bear Sword Array. When interviewed, Tang declared confidently that his team had trained under supervision for a month to prepare for victory against Faction 60. Asked about Faction 60, Tang praised Suwon's overwhelming strength and expressed eagerness to face her. But when questioned about Wenling's score of 0, his tone grew bitter. He mocked Wenling, sarcastically wishing him luck in his immortal cultivation practice. That night, Wenling and his friends were relaxing when an unexpected group chat invitation from the administration appeared. Shock spread among them, as they learned, all 5 were chosen to compete in the 4,396 National Sword Competition. Even their loyal dog, Froggy, had been included. To their disbelief, Froggy had scored 5,000 in a spiritual test, surpassing even Tang, earning the right to participate. Astonished, they learned animals had competed before in rare cases. Excitement filled the air as they imagined the challenge ahead. Qin shared the news with his father, who proudly gifted him a spiritual sword called Lai Chao. Hua revealed his treasured blade, forged years ago, from the fangs of a level 3 spirit beast, the Magnet Tiger. Soon joined the call and displayed her sword Ocean. The administrators gasped at the glowing blue blade, declaring that she had formed a sword spirit. The monitor praised her, acknowledging that despite her noble family, she had invested true effort in bonding with her weapon. Everyone was left stunned when Suen revealed her family had created 13 identical copies of Ocean as spares in case one was broken. The group discussed the process of nurturing sword spirits, emphasizing patience. At first, chaotic, the spirit body gradually stabilized with care, sometimes manifesting as small beasts or human forms, eventually gaining wisdom. Some exceptional sword spirits could even think independently. The administration promised they would study this in advanced lessons and urged them to strengthen their bonds with their swords. Froggy became the center of attention when Suen shared a video of the dog pulling out his sword spirit, Skyblade, using his tongue. Astonished laughter filled the group as they witnessed the strange yet powerful display. Attention soon turned back to Wenling, as his friends pressed him eagerly about his own sword spirit. All Wenling wanted was to enjoy his crispy noodles in peace, but the constant pressure left him no choice. He admitted he had won, ending the conversation abruptly. None noticed his reluctance. Later, Wenling went downstairs intending to ask his parents about his sword, but overheard them arguing over discounted anti-aging cream. On the television, breaking news reported an explosion at a spiritual chemical factory, warning citizens not to use enchanted clothes with high spiritual density. Another report followed immediately. Armored forces of the Agricultural Council had surrounded a Shadow Faction headquarters. For the first time, a hidden layer of the Shadow Faction had been exposed. One of the Shadow Faction members, with a rabbit-like face, challenges anyone who wants to enter the base to pass through her first, but she is quickly captured by the armored crew's forces, while the Magic Squad arrives and swiftly apprehends the rest of the Shadow Faction. Teacher Zhu arrives in his car, and the press surrounds him immediately. He addresses them, stating that in the past he thwarted assassins' plans twice, and this time with Wenling, it would be no different. He also mentions that he looks forward to meeting the Shadow Faction leader. After that, Wenling turns his attention away from the TV and asks his parents about the location of his spiritual sword. He then goes up to the attic in search of it and finally finds the box containing it, which glows in his presence. From inside the box, a small boy with white hair emerges, shouting that 10 years have passed. Wenling is shocked, slams the box shut, and immediately feels a sharp pain from his talisman. The following day, Wenling meets with his friends outside the school gate, where Shin Gal mocks his wooden sword, saying it is too small and only suitable for children. However, Suen finds it cute and amusing, while only Froggy knows the immense power that Wenling's sword holds. The supervisor and teacher Zhu arrive and inform the group that the competition will take place in Faction 59 and last for 5 days, requiring them to stay there. Seeing Wenling carrying no luggage, the supervisor asks Shin if he knew they would be staying at Faction 59. In reality, Wenling knew but brought nothing because he had no intention of participating. He planned to fake a stomachache after arriving and return home. Chen offered to share his clothes, but everyone cringed at the idea except Wenling, who boarded the bus because he had an urgent matter to attend to. Zhu wished him good luck, but Wenling irritably shut his window. On the bus, Wenling's sword spirit tries to emerge, but he suppresses it and reminds her of their deal from the previous day. He gave her crispy noodles in exchange for silence. The bus arrives at Faction 59's gate, where Tang, Xing, 3 students, and their coach welcome them. Ban and C glare at each other, revealing they were once close friends and roommates, but now stand as rivals, constantly throwing insults at each other. Suen approaches and hints that she is the one helping improve Faction 60's financial situation. It is noted that Ban joined Suen's school, not hers. Ban then confronts a boy from Yang, accusing him of cheating on exams, bullying classmates, and even abusing animals, which had led to a public security punishment. The accusations crush him, making him feel as though he had been hit by a bulldozer. Meanwhile, Wenling grows anxious, searching for an opportunity to fake fainting from stomach pain to retaliate against Ban. Sai approaches him and uses her testing trick, sending a ray of spiritual energy through him. He wonders if he can use this to his advantage and escape the competition. She mocks Ban for bringing along a student with only 5 points of spiritual power to such a prestigious event, asking if Ban is ready to accept her defeat. Wenling seizes the moment, collapses to the ground, clutching his chest, and the rest of Faction 60 rush to check on him. Unexpectedly, his sword spirit manifests, warning him that his talisman is breaking. Realizing this, Wenling demands to know why she never told him earlier, and she explains that she tried to warn him on the bus, but he kept forcing her back inside the seal. The talisman shatters, releasing an overwhelming surge of spiritual energy into the sky. Everyone is terrified, suspecting Sai of harming him, but she denies involvement and accuses him of faking it. Enraged, shouts at her to look at his state and questions how she could accuse him of pretending while he is clearly in danger. Steven clarifies that she merely performed a basic testing trick to gauge his spiritual value. Sai questions the students from Faction 59 if they did anything, but all deny it. Sun carries Wenling with concern, while he continues feigning suffering. The emergency team carefully places him on a stretcher, and Sun rushes to follow, but Tang stops her, reminiscing about when they attended the agricultural school together. She is in no mood for his nonsense and tells him to leave her alone. Ignoring her feelings, Tang boasts about his position as president of Faction 59's student union. She asks again to be left alone, and when he refuses, she tries to strike him, only to be intercepted by a short white-haired girl. Tang introduces her as Yoshi, the student union secretary. Shin worries about Suen's safety and rushes to help, but other students from Faction 59 block him. Meanwhile, Wenling's body is engulfed in fiery spiritual energy, forcing Teacher C to bind him in bandages like a mummy to suppress it. Tang witnesses this, and hints that one of the students must have gone too far, causing some girls to suspect that he might be behind Wenling's condition. Driven by anger, one of them draws her sword and charges at him, but the supervisor intervenes. Wenling is then taken to the emergency room, where he uses his flash technique to escape the doctors and starts searching for a way to flee from Faction 59 in order to obtain a new talisman from his father that can contain his power. Using too much spiritual energy could unleash a catastrophe capable of destroying the world. He calls his father, explains the situation, and his father, preoccupied between his phone and toilet paper, promises to finish his current business before flying over on his sword. All teams gathered inside Faction 59's gym except for Wenling, where the teacher began explaining the rules of the upcoming competition. She stated that the battles would be 5 against 5, with 5 altars on the field: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Inserting a sword into an altar would accumulate points, and the first team to reach 100 points would be declared the winner. Tang mocked Faction 60, pointing out that with Wenling still ill, they only had 4 members, suggesting they withdraw. However, he reminded her that Faction 59 also had 4 members. Tang laughed arrogantly and revealed their hidden 5th member, Feng, who immediately caused a scene by flirting with Sun, offering her a flower and promising to join her side if she accepted. Seeing this, Chen rushed forward to protect her, only to be easily defeated by Feng's immense spiritual power. Realizing he was at the Golden Core stage, Chen still refused to give up, recalling his father's words about never standing idle in the face of injustice. He charged again with full force, but Feng grabbed his arm and tore it apart using his negative spiritual energy. At that very moment, Wenling entered the gym, picked up Chen, and as soon as he touched him, Chen's arm miraculously returned to normal, shocking everyone. Wenling had secretly used the Great Restoration trick, which further damaged his talisman but saved his friend, proving that he might be far stronger than he appeared. As his father called him about retrieving his talisman, Wenling abruptly ended the call, knowing escape was impossible. Feng, bewildered, wondered how Wenling had healed Chen. He tested Wenling with a powerful punch, only to be stunned when Wenling calmly absorbed the blow, fell to the ground, and stood back up, emotionless, walking away as though nothing had happened. A girl happily asked if he was okay, and Wenling simply handed her Feng's flower, leaving Feng even more confused as to how Wenling had taken it without him, noticing despite showing no spiritual energy. Everyone was then dismissed from the preparation rooms, but Wenling excused himself, insisting he wanted to buy crispy noodles with a limited sweet potato flavor. On his way out, he stumbled upon Feng being beaten by the Shadow Leader. The Shadow Lady bound both Feng and Wenling with her immortal ropes, rendering them unable to escape, and delivered them to her elderly driver. She then carelessly kicked Wenling with her heel, unknowingly damaging his talisman and risking an explosion of the sealed negative energy that could destroy the world. The sword spirit desperately tried to wake him to prevent the outburst, but nothing worked until she mentioned that crispy noodles were half price today. Wenling suddenly awoke, allowing the spirit to breathe a sigh of relief. Disguised as Feng, the Shadow Lady returned to the others, who were in the middle of a heated debate about the competition. She then announced that Wenling had been kidnapped by a woman named Chenyi, who had anticipated such a move from the Shadow Lady. Chenyi revealed that the woman was in fact Zhang Liang, the leader of the Shadow faction. Tang asked her to calculate the situation, and she detected a spiritual presence in the old temples. Despite her guards urging her to flee, she refused, declaring that her family never retreats from battle, and departed with her protectors to rescue Wenling and Faction 60. Missy also sent her students but advised them not to engage in the fighting, emphasizing that their true purpose was to learn their opponent's combat skills. Meanwhile, Wenling enjoyed peaceful sleep, relieved that he no longer had to worry about avoiding the competition. His rest was cut short when the old driver declared it was time for his work, stomping the ground and causing the entire building to quake. Feng screamed for help, but the driver's power created a massive pit, causing Feng to fall in. The sword spirit explained to Wenling that the old man was in fact a spirit child with immense hidden strength. Soon, Soons and the rest of the group arrived, finding Wenling tied to a pillar. Sayabai warned Tang to be cautious, noting something unusual about Feng. The driver launched his attack using berry seeds, summoning a devastating storm. Everyone struggled to survive against his overwhelming strength. He unleashed his technique, Yellow Disc Treasure, summoning golden knights to obey his will. Soon commanded her guards to stay back, while she fought alone, summoning all her surrounding swords to battle him. Though she held out for a while, the driver's power was far too great, and she was soon struck down. Just as all hope seemed lost, Wenling intervened by manipulating time, returning to the moment before the driver stomped the ground. Using this advantage, he defeated the driver and then cast a forgetting trick on Chenyi, making it appear that she was the one who had rescued him. The driver was bound by immortal bomb ropes, and to everyone's surprise, Zhu appeared once again to take credit, maintaining Wenling's low profile. Zhu assured the press that all hostages were safe and hinted that the old man's body might contain the spirit of an ancient demon long believed to be dead. The Seven Stars group arrived to investigate the site, asking Wenling if the pit had been caused by the fight, but he denied it, claiming it had been there already. Once one of the Seven Stars departed, Wenling's sword spirit emerged from the pit, asking what to do with the real Feng, who lay unconscious inside. Wenling ordered her to keep watch and ensure he did not escape, thinking that if Feng showed up, the competition would be cancelled. Little did he know that the Shadow Lady, disguised as Feng, would still participate in the tournament. The following day, Wenling was forced, frustrated, to take part in the very competition he had tried so hard to avoid, wondering how Feng could possibly be there. The students were instructed not to fly higher than 5 meters, and the battlefield was covered with a regenerative field to prevent their farmland from being harmed, even if the competitors were injured. They were also told to hand over their phones and were given Bluetooth earpieces for team communication. Everyone cheered with excitement except Wenling, who silently contemplated his fate, realizing he had no choice but to fight for the sake of his friends, who had risked everything to save him, even when it wasn't necessary. The competition begins, and the press captures countless photographs as the battles unfold. Shiba employs her skills at Tang's request to gather all the spiritual data on their opponents. At that moment, Wenling's father rushes in, desperate to deliver the talisman to his son, but it is already too late as Wenling has stepped onto the field. Seeing him, Zhu cheerfully mistakes him for his master's father before quickly correcting himself so that no one notices. Wenling's father quietly explains the problem of the broken talisman, leaving Zhu in shock. Meanwhile, Faction 59 manipulates the system and enters the contest, with all of its members, except for Feng, appearing at the same location. On the other hand, Faction 60 becomes scattered across the altars. One of Soons uses her abilities to track their positions but cannot detect Wenling's presence due to his low power. Chen is stationed at the southern metal altar. Sun stands at the northern water altar. Fraji is positioned at the fire altar, where Feng also arrives. With the rest in place, Tang predicts Wenling must be at the eastern altar. As soon as this is said, a member of Faction 59 with striking orange hair dashes toward Wenling's location, only to realize he has ended up alongside Faction 59. Guo decides to spy on them from behind a rock, but Tang exposes him and attacks. Yet Guo cleverly leaves behind a paper substitute as a decoy. Tang falls into the trick, striking the false body, while Guo secretly slips away to shadow the orange-haired opponent moving toward Wenling. Guo worries deeply, for he has only 2 paper dolls left as his means of deception, and the competition has barely started while their rivals prove overwhelmingly powerful. Faction 59 spreads out to seize the Earth Altar and clash directly with Faction 60. Hearing the announcement, Chen grows anxious and rushes toward the metal altar, only to be struck by thorny lashes from the tree beneath it that scar his body. Even so, he pushes forward and wonders how he is supposed to claim it. Shami appears and instructs him to press his sword into the altar for 10 seconds. Chen, who dislikes fighting women, proposes to show her 3 moves in return for her aid, but she calls herself foolish with surprising honesty. Suddenly, Chen feels her movements falter as he casts a dimensional net trick, forcing her body into false responses and making her strike herself against her will. At the fire altar, Froggy and Feng clash fiercely, exchanging blow after blow. Froggy even exploits Feng's negative energy to boost himself, but despite absorbing it, he is eventually overpowered and defeated by Feng, who successfully claims the altar. Meanwhile, the orange-haired fighter reaches the wooden altar and finds Wenling lying unconscious on the ground. Believing himself lucky, he approaches the altar to take it. Yet, Wenling regains awareness when he hears Froggy over the headset mention that gathering enough negative energy could break the seal. Just as the orange-haired man prepares his strike, Guo intervenes at the last moment and lands a decisive hit. A serious battle begins while Wenling watches, cold and expressionless. At the water altar, just as Suen is about to secure victory, Tang suddenly ambushes her. They unleash their spirit swords in a ferocious duel, and Tang boldly declares that they share a sacred bond through their ancestors. Meanwhile, the announcement declares that Faction 59 has already captured 4 altars. In desperation to shift the balance, one of Suen's attempts her ocean dance technique, but Tang swiftly counters with his frost breath trick, shattering her move. The fight intensifies as Feng joins the fray at Tang's request, placing Suen's against 2 highly skilled adversaries. Trapped, Suen finds escape impossible, as the ice prevents her usual techniques, but she still manages to capture the altar. Suddenly, a heavy strike resounds, and the orange-haired man is blasted into the air, eliminated from the contest. The release of this overwhelming energy sends winds surging and shatters the ice, granting Suen a chance to escape. Tang remarks in shock that the force is even more immense than Feng's negative energy and decides to investigate the source. Before departing, he seizes the water altar and tells Feng cryptically that he does not know who he truly is, but if he obeys his orders and helps Faction 59 win, he will be rewarded later. With their 5th altar captured, Faction 59 gains bonus momentum, but an announcement quickly follows stating that Faction 60 has now claimed the wooden altar, leaving all sides stunned. Through her earpiece, Suen hears that Wenling and Froggy have joined forces to secure the altar. At last, the truth at the wooden altar is revealed. The orange-haired fighter and Giao are locked in a brutal struggle. Guo unleashes his mouth cannon technique, firing devastating bursts of words at his foe, though the ability cannot be repeated continuously due to its limits. Soon, he runs out of phrases, leaving him vulnerable. The orange-haired man mocks him for exhausting his arsenal and begins hurling insults at Wenling, calling him worthless trash, before driving in a kick. At that moment, Froggy arrives with a plan to absorb the spiritual energy unleashed by their battle. Wenling, seeing him, hides himself swiftly. Suddenly, a dangerous thought sparks in Guo's mind, one that may cost his friendship with Wenling. He apologizes to Wenling in advance and begins speaking harsh and painful words about him, summoning the mouth cannon's explosive force against the orange-haired enemy. His words mention Harry and Molloy in bitter contempt. For the first time in ages, Wenling feels emotions boil within him, realizing that his talisman is nearing its breaking point. With his spiritual energy and emotions long suppressed, he had always seemed cold and detached. Now, though he cannot release his power, rage fills him, burning away the indifference that defined his existence. The surge of Wenling's emotions shatters the talisman, releasing a massive burst of overwhelming energy. Seeing this, Froggy leaps toward Wenling to consume the negative energy, but Wenling forms a new plan. He channels just enough of his spiritual power for Froggy to absorb the excess, tricking him into believing it was intentional. Froggy realizes the trap and begs him to go easy, but Wenling combines his spiritual power with Froggy's, stabilizing the imbalance as the two merge into a single being. Froggy, now connected directly to Wenling's mind, reacts with shock and asks if this is just another trick. The orange-haired fighter sneers at Wenling, mocking him as nothing more than level 5 trash. Without hesitation, yet the touch completely disables the weapon. The orange-haired man stares in disbelief as Wenling smoothly steps past him, knocking him off balance and sending him soaring through the air like a comet. With this, Wenling secures the wooden altar, stripping Faction 59 of its speed boost. The announcement spreads quickly, and Tang panics, demanding to know how this is possible. Kaya explains that Wenling fused his spiritual power with Froggy to seize the altar, and is now heading south toward the fire altar. Together with Guo, Wenling claims control of the fire altar, further enraging Tang. In response, Tang orders Baifeng to head toward the earth altar while commanding the rest of Faction 59 to reclaim the fire altar. His plan is clear: avoid direct confrontation with Wenling, since the orange-haired man has already been eliminated, and instead secure victory by manipulating the flow of the altars. With Wenling and Froggy now joined, Tang focuses on exploiting weaknesses, directing Xiaoyi to track their movements, and ensuring that the remaining members of Faction 60 are systematically dismantled. Wenling moves onto the metal altar, where he awakens Chen Zhao. Still disoriented, Chen is startled to see Wenling and immediately begins searching for Xia Bai, insisting she has deceived him. Wenling captures the metal altar, tipping the balance further against Faction 59. Seeing Chen's excitement over this small victory, Wenling smiles at him, a rare sight that leaves Chen stunned, as he had never known Wenling to display any emotion at all. But the moment is short-lived. Tang rallies his forces and captures the remaining altars, restoring the score to 4-1 in favor of Faction 59. Wenling quickly realizes Tang's strategy. Even with his overwhelming strength, he cannot secure altars one by one without risking collapse. He attempts to accelerate his pace, but Guo warns him that he is pushing past his limit, cautioning that such recklessness could bring ruin to the land itself. Before Wenling can respond, Sun contacts them through the earth vein, revealing she has located Guo and that Xia is tracking their positions. She reminds them that they have one distinct advantage over Wenling, causing his face to flush with uncharacteristic embarrassment. Froggy cheerfully teases him for showing such emotion again. Sun then directs Wenling to target the Earth Altar, which is guarded by Bifeng, the strongest member of Faction 59. She instructs Chen to defend the metal altar they had just taken. Her plan is to use her water technique to obscure Bifeng's vision, while Guo distracts another Faction 59 member at the fire altar, allowing her to claim it. Sai informs Tang that Sun is heading toward the fire altar, but Tang responds that she would first have to bypass Bifeng. Suddenly, they realize her water technique could cloak her approach, enabling her to slip through unnoticed. Using her water trick, Sun approaches the fire altar with Guo. Guo begins provoking the Faction 59 guard, keeping him occupied, while Sun sneaks toward the altar. Tang hastily communicates through the earpiece, ordering the guard to retreat immediately and protect the altar. The man rushes back, and Guo unleashes his verbal strikes at him, but his attack misses and accidentally hits Sun, knocking her away from the altar. This gives Tang enough time to arrive. Sun recalls her father's words about never losing to anyone, especially the Tang family, who had disgraced her own clan for 14 years through the art of imprisonment. Tang shouts at his ally to reclaim the sword quickly, while Guo apologizes for failing to land his attack the first time. He strikes again, managing to wound the man, but not enough to stop him. In desperation, Sun hurls one of her swords toward the altar and engages the guard with her remaining blade. Yet, the countdown does not begin, as the rules require a participant to insert the sword themselves. Realizing this, Sun dashes for the altar to drive her weapon in personally, but Tang's spear suddenly intercepts, shattering her blade. He mocks her for losing her chance to win, gloating that while he had hoped for a clean sweep of 5-0, he is satisfied with a 4-1 victory. He boasts about Faction 60's dire condition, while Sun understands with horror that if Tang seizes the fire altar, their defeat is inevitable. Tang sends Sun and Drabe to monitor Wenling and Bifeng, while assigning Chen to hold off Bifeng. If Wenling leaves to capture another altar, Xia will simply reclaim the one he abandoned, securing Faction 59's triumph. Sun tells Guo that they must do everything possible to stop Tang from taking the fire altar, and Chen must hold Bifeng at bay to prevent him from reclaiming the metal one. Meanwhile, Bifeng arrives at the metal altar and immediately engages Chen. Remembering his promise, Chen focuses on evasion rather than retaliation, knowing that as long as he prevents Bifeng from inserting his sword into the altar, their control remains. Bifeng grows frustrated and taunts Chen as a coward, trying to provoke him into attacking. The insult triggers Chen's memories of his harsh childhood, when his father berated and beat him for failing to meet expectations. Despite the surge of painful emotions, Chen keeps his composure, continuing to dodge Bifeng's strikes and holding his ground. Enraged, Bifeng harnesses the metallic tree above the altar, drawing down its falling leaves of steel and hurling them at Chen. The assault leaves Chen gravely wounded, but still, he refuses to yield, struggling to block Bifeng's advance. His resistance only fuels Bifeng's fury, and in a brutal outburst, he shatters Chen's arms. Sensing the danger, Sun urges Guo to rush to Chen's aid. Guo hesitates, reminding her that he cannot face Tang and the others alone. Yet, Sun insists he go, hiding his sword, known as the God of Death, while she prepares to confront the Tang forces herself. At the metal altar, Chen, bleeding and broken, still tries to stop Bifeng. Kicked aside repeatedly, he drags himself back toward the altar, tears streaming down his face as he remembers his vow to remain by its side and not disappoint his comrades. As Bifeng closes in, ready to plant his blade, Xia suddenly reports to Tang that twin bursts of spiritual energy have erupted from the fire and metal altars. She warns that the energy belongs to Wu's spirit. In that moment, a blazing phoenix emerges from Guo's sword, his sword spirit. The demon phoenix, fierce and powerful, demands sacrifices from other sword spirits. Some of Sun's and Guo had planned this in advance, offering their sword spirits to merge with Guo's phoenix spirit. Together, they summon a massive inferno that blasts Tang and the other fighter, crushing them in defeat. At the same time, Chen, renewed by his sacrifice, regains spiritual energy in his shattered arm, infused with the power of Guo's sword spirit. With this strength, he pushes Baifeng back, halts the countdown, and reclaims the metal altar by throwing away Baifeng's sword and planting his own. This shifts the balance to faction 60, leading 3-1. Wenling then seizes the wooden altar, expanding their lead to 4-1. Enraged by Sun's success and the team's victory, Baifeng reveals his true form as Lady Shadow. The story then cuts back to a strategy session that explains how faction 60 secured 4 altars. During the planning, Soon suggested that if Chen and Guo captured the fire altar and Chen secured the metal altar, faction 59 could never catch up. But to ensure victory, they would need their secret weapon, Wenling. The plan was for Wenling to appear at the water altar while Guo charged his sword and summoned its spirit. Shai would remain busy, tracking Tang's moves, unaware that Wenling and Froggy had severed their spiritual link. This allowed Wenling to slip undetected to the earth altar, while Shai assumed he was still at the water altar. In truth, Froggy was there in his place. Everything unfolded according to Sun's plan. Guo summoned his phoenix spirit, called the Demon Devourer, with the help of Chen and Sun's sacrifices, overwhelming Tang and claiming the fire altar. When the announcement confirmed Faction 60's capture of the fire altar, Tang rushed toward the wooden altar while Bifeng moved to defend the earth altar. Another announcement followed, declaring Faction 60's capture of the wooden altar, raising the score to 4-1. Shocked, Sai wondered who could have taken the wooden altar if Wenling was supposedly at the water altar. Froggy then revealed his identity, confronting Sai directly. She attempted to ensnare him with her dimensional net, but it failed. Froggy explained that her net worked on humans, not creatures like him, and mocked her, saying her own technique had betrayed her by allowing him to pinpoint her location. Meanwhile, Guo ordered some of Soons to check on Wenling at the earth altar while he went to reinforce Chen at the metal altar. They agreed and left to join Wenling. Despite controlling more altars, Faction 60 still trailed on the progress bar by about 11 points behind Faction 59. In the control room, Wenling's father observed with growing concern. Ever since childhood, Wenling had ignored both success and failure, raised to suppress emotions and taught strict control over his feelings. His parents ensured that his spiritual crew dulled his emotions from an early age, and he mastered restraint. That remained true until the day he met Sun, who offered him protection after defeating his bully, sparking his first stirrings of emotion. From then on, he gradually felt more when Chen declared himself his lifelong friend. During that night of fireworks with Sun, and when his friends stood by his side, these small lights grew into a warm spring, sun, and now, as he approached the earth altar, his emotions boiled over like a flood. Trembling with these overwhelming feelings, Wenling struggled to hold his sword steady as he tried to plant it into the altar. His spiritual energy began fracturing again under the pressure, but the more he tried to suppress his emotions, the stronger they surged, bursting forth in a torrent of negative energy. At that moment, Sun joined him, grasping his hand. Together, they steadied the blade and claimed the earth altar, securing Faction 60's ultimate victory. At the same time, Guo reached the metal altar and found Chen hanging from the metallic tree, barely alive. Guo lowered him and held him in his arms, weeping. The crew watching through the digital screen panicked as the director shouted at Mishri, insisting this wasn't part of the simulation. Chen had been fatally wounded in reality, not just virtually. Mishri explained that guardian spirits normally protected contestants, but Chen had been attacked by someone beyond the third golden pill stage, a true master who should never have been part of the match. Only immense power could shatter the guardian spirit and harm a real body. At the earth altar, Wenling, Sun, Chen, and Froggy gathered, with Sun encouraging Wenling to be true to himself. But suddenly, Lady Shadow, who had disguised herself as Baifeng, attacked. Her strike mortally wounded Chen and fatally pierced Sun. Sun's spirit began to drift away as Wenling roared in fury, his long-suppressed power finally breaking loose. His unleashed spiritual energy shook the world, threatening to destroy it. Froggy rushed to him, trying to contain the leaking energy, but Wenling's rage burned brighter, focused solely on avenging Sun's death. He launched a relentless assault on Lady Shadow. In desperation, Froggy froze the flow of time, but Wenling shattered the stillness and continued his attack, his eyes glowing fiery red. Lady Shadow taunted him, mocking his failure to protect Sun. His anger surged higher, his strikes nearly delivering the finishing blow, yet he stopped at the last second, even as Lady Shadow pleaded for her life. Instead, Wenling turned to Sun's body and cradled her in his arms. He attempted his ultimate technique to restore her, but it failed. Froggy explained that Lady Shadow's attack had torn Sun's spirit with intense hatred, beyond even Wenling's power to mend. Still, he noticed Sun's body remained warm, and faint breaths lingered. Froggy clarified that she lived only because time itself had been frozen, preserving what remained of her life. If time resumed, she would vanish forever. Wenling, powerless and in tears, begged for another way to save her. Froggy told him the only option was to freeze time eternally, locking her in suspended life. Realizing how unbearable existence would be without her, Wenling declared he would sacrifice all his spiritual power to keep her alive. Froggy warned that doing so would shatter the world, but Wenling vowed he would rebuild it again. He had already restarted the world 4 times, each time hoping to restore everything, including Sun's life. Yet no matter how many times he rewound, she remained dead. His sword spirit whispered that Sun's vital soul had been shredded into pieces, perhaps not gone, but fragmented beyond repair. Still, Wenling persisted, resetting the world again and again. While Froggy insisted it was futile, the outcome unchanged. Wenling cried out in despair, regretting not killing Lady Shadow sooner, believing Sun might have lived if he had. Froggy told him that now, with time halted, they at least had a moment to process. Wenling asked how Froggy manipulated time. Froggy explained his ability to convert spiritual power into accelerated beams, pushing energy in their bodies to the speed of light, holding the world still. Wenling seized on the idea, if surpassing the speed of light could freeze time, then moving even faster might reverse it. Froggy admitted it was possible, but warned that the attempt would be perilously fragile. Wenling is told that attempting to reverse time would require an enormous amount of spiritual power. He claims he can do it, while Froggy warns him that such a thing goes against his very nature. Yet Wenling is determined, caring only about saving a certain girl, and so he joins Froggy. Together, they push their power to return to the past. Suddenly, Wenling finds himself on the very first day of high school, where the older students begin bullying him, but this time it is Chen who defends him instead of Sun. Chen even gives them $10, leaving Wenling confused, asking why he did such a thing. Suen is not in the classroom, and no matter how much he searches his memory, Wenling cannot recall her face. Yet every time she should have been there, he is overwhelmed by emotions he cannot explain. He follows a car, thinking he knows her, but she is nowhere to be found. Instead, Tang and Sae are present wherever he goes, and a persistent feeling gnaws at him, as though someone is missing, haunting him with deja vu. The new world is identical to the old one, except she does not exist. Although Wenling enjoys the peaceful life he had always longed for in this new reality, the truth is darker. When Wenling's illusion of space collided with Froggy's illusion of time, an overflow of spiritual energy was injected into existence, creating a new world that never included Sun. This new reality continuously consumes everything from the old one, except her, and will eventually cause the destruction of the former world. No one from the old world can stop this collapse. Just as all hope seems lost, Sun's spirit awakens in the underworld. A servant escorts her to the newly appointed Lord of the Underworld, declaring that a problem has arisen. The new lord recognizes her instantly as the daughter of the flower fruit group and the water covering point, a bloodline linked to the previous lord of the underworld. Realizing the danger she represents, the lord becomes terrified and chooses to send her back before Wenling destroys all 3 realms. Meanwhile, in the new world, Wenling and his class visit at the Cave of Astrology. Their guide, Zhu, leads them through, and everyone tries their luck. But Wenling senses something wrong and decides to test his fate. To everyone's shock, the Cave of Fortune shatters, yet the group continues with other game. Wenling keeps experiencing flashes of deja vu. Chen and Guo notice his strange behavior, and Wenling tells them he feels as though he had once been here with someone important. They remind him they came simply to have fun and encourage him not to overthink. Together, they all ride the Ferris wheel. On the Ferris wheel, Wenling finally breaks down, realizing that someone vital is missing, and memories of Sun flood into his mind. At that same moment in the old world, Sun awakens alive and sees Wenling's sword spirit. She asks what has happened, and the spirit explains everything up to this point. He warns her that unless Wenling is awakened from the false reality he created, their original world will soon be destroyed. Sun becomes determined to save everything and awakens Wenling by channeling Froggy's spiritual power from the new world. At last, Wenling understands the truth and remembers Sun. He realizes he had trapped himself inside a world of his own making, and once freed, he reunites with Sun in their original world. This time, when Wenling returns to the moment of the tournament, as Chen secures the metal altar, Lady Shadow disguised as Baifeng appears, but Wenling defeats her before she can harm Sun, ensuring her safety as they claim final victory in the match. Yet despite their triumph, Sun recalls nothing of what had transpired in the other world. Time is reset to the moment when Wenling and Sun must choose whether to save the world. Wenling is given the chance to go back and defeat Lady Shadow, but it comes at a terrible cost. Sun must lose all her memories of the other timeline. Wenling reassures her that even if she does not remember how they saved each other, his feelings will bring her back to him. With the reset complete, Wenling strikes down Lady Shadow and everything unfolds smoothly. Froggy asks whether he is truly satisfied with such an ending, knowing that Sun no longer remembers him as her savior. At that moment, Wenling's father appears and presents him with a new talisman. Froggy warns him that once he wears it, his emotions will grow cold. But Wenling, looking at Sun and all his companions celebrating their victory, chooses to put on the talisman, accepting it in hope